Four corners. Living through a natural disaster. Recht. Extreme weather. Weather, predictable or not, is always with us. For most of us, the weather is more or less unsurprising, colder in winter and warmer in summer. There are rainy days or clear skies, and the occasional thunderstorm or early snowfall. Sometimes, weather can be much harsher than normal. Some places in the world may experience gale-force winds, whereas other places might have heavy rain for weeks. Yet other places might have no rain for long periods of time. Extreme weather can be very dangerous, but when it is predicted, people can make preparations to lessen its damage. However, it is not always possible to know ahead of time that bad weather is on its way. For example, tornadoes like the one shown on this page can form very quickly and can be very destructive. When such violent weather arrives unexpectedly, the toll in human life may be high because people do not have time to seek shelter or to evacuate. Tropical cyclones are among the most extreme storms people experience. These storms develop and build over the oceans in the tropics, close to the equator. If they strike a coastline, they may cause a great deal of damage. The first part of the book describes Tracy, a small but severe cyclone that hit the city of Darwin, Australia, in late 1974. It became the worst natural disaster that any Australian city had ever experienced. Many people who live beside rivers worry about extreme rainfall. Too much rain can cause water levels to rise and spill over the riverbanks, flooding farmland and homes. Along China's rivers, floods are most common in the summer, when seasonal winds bring rain clouds over the land from the ocean. You can read about the disastrous results produced when the Huanghe, a river in China, flooded in 1933. Drought can be just as extreme as cyclones and floods. In a drought, rain may not fall in a region for months or years. As plants and animals die from lack of water, many people face economic hardship and starvation. A section of the book covers a severe drought that began in Central America in 1997 and describes how different countries, including Costa Rica, handled the disaster. A tropical cyclone almost destroyed an Australian city in 1974. Severe floods brought death and hardship to many thousands of Chinese in 1933. Drought brought disaster to several Central American countries in 1997 and 1998. The story of Cyclone Tracy. On December 24, 1974, the residents of Darwin, Australia, were enjoying the summer. It was Christmas Eve, and many people were celebrating. At about 9:30 p.m., the Weather Bureau began broadcasting cyclone warnings. Most people were too busy preparing for Christmas Day to pay much attention to the warnings. Then, just after midnight, the cyclone hit Darwin with heavy rain and winds of more than 200 kilometers per hour. By the next morning, Darwin had been devastated. Most buildings were flattened, and there was no power. Trucks and planes had been blown around like toys. During Cyclone Tracy's night of destruction in Darwin, more than 60 people were killed, and hundreds had been injured. The cyclone, officially named Tracy, left the city of Darwin in ruins. A night of destruction. Like many other Darwin residents, Bob Collins did not pay too much attention to the cyclone warnings on December 24th. In the evening, he was at his home just outside the city. Bob described the dramatic events of the night that followed in this way. At about midnight, it was clear that this was going to be something significant and scary. The wind just kept on getting stronger and stronger. It went past the point where you'd ever experienced anything like it before. And then, in the early hours of the morning, there was this enormous sort of ripping, tearing sound, and in a matter of seconds the entire roof just peeled off the house. It sucked the ceilings out. And we were just surrounded by the brick walls of the house, with rain and wind just shooting into the house. It was absolutely terrifying. What is a cyclone? Tropical cyclones are powerful storm systems that develop over warm ocean waters. In North America, these storms are called hurricanes, and in Australia they are called cyclones. In Eastern Asia, they are known as typhoons. A tropical cyclone develops when warm, moist air is sucked into an area of low pressure. Over time, huge thunderclouds build up and strong winds begin to rotate around the storm's center. Bob Collins and his friends drove to his office building, which was cyclone-proof. A cyclone-proof building is usually constructed with steel and concrete. Bob described the difficult trip to his office. The three of us jammed ourselves into this four-wheel drive and took off, in the eye of the storm. There was of course this artificial lull. And the sight that I saw in the headlights of the vehicle was just extraordinary. Trees lying across the road. Then, the storm had actually come back the other way. We were very lucky to make it. Not many of Darwin's residents ventured out into the cyclone. Rob Wesley Smith stayed in his apartment. He told the story of his struggle to save his photographs and personal papers in this way. The suction was just unbelievable. I couldn't stop things blowing out. I tried to shut the door, but the building must have been moving and the thing just swung open. I'd gone to bed and woke up with a cyclone raging. The eye. The area of calm in the middle of a cyclone is called the eye. It is surrounded by a wall of thick clouds, driving rains and spiraling winds. When the eye of the storm is directly overhead, the winds suddenly drop and the sky clears for a short time, usually an hour or two. After the eye has passed, the fierce winds and rain start again, but this time they blow from the opposite direction. Cross-section cyclone. A morning of devastation. On the morning of December 25th, the residents of Darwin emerged from their safe places to face the destruction of their city. What they saw was shocking. Some people described the scene as looking like a battlefield. Others said the city had been turned into a huge garbage tip that morning. Bob Collins drove to the ambulance station to see if he could help anyone. He described the scene around the city, seeing those big, high-tension power lines, the actual steel